Welcome to your astrological forecast for the week of Monday, October 21st through Sunday, October 27th, 2024. This week, I'm showing you the chart for the start of the week, Monday, October 21st, and I'm not going to lie, I kind of dig this chart. To me, this chart has a lot of fall vibes. It's got some like festive, fun vibes from Venus and Sagittarius. It's also got some creepy and kind of dark vibes with Mercury and Scorpio. And then Sun is still kind of clinging on to the last few degrees of Libra. Sun is in fall in Libra, so that is kind of an awkward energy, I guess you could say. But at the same time, we're still in that first part of fall that is very beautiful. Libra is ruled by Venus, so of course that is generally one of the more beautiful times of the year. This is set to change though this week, as many of you probably know. The sun is about to change signs. So let's get into that. Let's get into all of it, and let's run through a few charts. So the first chart I wanted to show you is actually for Tuesday, October 22nd. You can see once Sun reaches 29 degrees Libra, it will make that square to Pluto at 29 Capricorn. So especially if you have any planets around the last or first degrees of any signs, especially the last degree of any cardinal signs, Libra, Capricorn, Cancer, or Aries, you may feel kind of a crossroads. Insecurities may be brought up. Pluto's a very dark energy. This is relatively brief, though. This only affects us for really just part of the day. And even later on Tuesday, October 22nd, Sun will actually enter Scorpio. So we are leaving that first trimester of fall in the northern hemisphere, entering that middle third, I guess you could say, of fall. And really, I think this is a fun time. I know you can kind of love or hate Sun in Scorpio because by its very nature, it is intense. It's an intense transit. That's kind of Scorpio's thing. But I always say, especially looking at what the northern latitudes experience at this time of year, it's very clear to see why the traits of Scorpio are the way they are. At this time of year, it really appears like everything is kind of decaying, rotting. It does have that really dark connotation to it. But that's why, people who are born with Scorpio placements are so resilient. There's this combination of being very emotional, very emotionally perceptive, very intuitive, but they can also be very analytical as well. There's kind of this hyper aware energy with Scorpio placements. So to some extent, we all experience this through Scorpio transits. Mercury has already been there, showing we've already been maybe a little sensitive, a little bit hyper aware. Mercury in Scorpio. I think Mercury's actually very strong in Scorpio. Mercury tends to do pretty well in the Mars-ruled signs, and Scorpio has that intellect, but I think it's a fun transit for Mercury because not only are we mentally perceptive, but we're also kind of intuitively and emotionally perceptive as well. So we've already been experiencing that energy. Now Sun joins Mercury in Scorpio as well. So we are plunging fully into the depths, the darkness of fall at this point. Libra, what we experienced for the last month or so, that's more just kind of the first phase of fall, very beautiful, very kind of poetic, and I think things really do intensify as we get into Scorpio season. So that's where we're moving toward now. So this kind of does disrupt this sort of nice balance that I thought we had at the beginning, because other than Earth, there aren't any kind of, inner solar system planets placements, I guess you could say. None of them are really focused on the Earth signs, but at the start of the week, we had, Venus in a fire sign, Mercury in a water sign, Sun in an air sign. Now we're really turning more toward the water elements at this point, considering Mars has been transiting Cancer for some time now. Mercury and Sun are in Scorpio, as I mentioned, and coincidentally or synchronistically, Moon is in Cancer as the Sun is entering Scorpio as well. So a lot of water themes going on. Plus, you could include Saturn and Neptune in Pisces. So a lot of emotion, a lot of sensitivity. We may be really picking up on different vibes and feelings, things like that. Okay, let's jump forward to Thursday, October 24th. So this is where we get some disruption. This easily looks like the most chaotic day of the week. This is where we get a third quarter moon. And this technically happens early in the day, Eastern time, when the moon reaches 1 degree Leo, it squares the sun at 1 degree Scorpio. This is a particular quarter moon that I've paid a lot of attention to because with the sun in Scorpio, moon in Leo, both the sun and moon are a little bit out of place. And they're both in signs that are very fierce and strong-willed. Scorpio and Leo are fighters, I guess you could say. They are very confident in their own abilities and their own kind of intelligence. They both have very strong personalities. So having the sun and moon in these signs, making this harsh aspect to one another, basically this indicates some kind of crisis in consciousness, because that's what third quarter moons do. So I could definitely see different clashes, people kind of clashing against one another. This is also a great day to take some kind of action, make some kind of change, if you can be physically active, because that's another thing. Both Scorpio and Leo are very energetic signs. They have lots of energy. So this is a very intense clash, and really now we've got a lot of water and fire in the chart. We talked about all the water placements, but considering Venus and Sagittarius with moon and Leo now, and even the Mercury and Sun in Scorpio is a water sign, but it can be very fiery as well. So there's a lot of passion on Thursday, a lot of feelings. There are of course pros and cons to this, just like there are pros and cons to everything in astrology, but generally this looks very intense. So again, I would say find some kind of outlet or release. If you have been waiting for the right time to make some kind of choice, this might be the right energy to push you forward to move up to the next level. I do think in very different ways both Scorpio and Leo are fixated on creation. It's just different though for each one, but so these are potentially very creative energies as well, very powerful, very fierce, definitely fighting energies, but also creative as well. And this can also be very sexual too, just saying. Going forward to Sunday, October 27th, we have another yod. If you've been listening to my channel, you're probably tired of me talking about yods, but I'm going to talk about another one because it seems like pretty much every weekend this month there's a new yod. This one is very new. It's involved with some new planets that haven't been involved in any of these other yods. Basically, we have this thing going on where Chiron is at 20 degrees Aries, Jupiter is at 20 degrees Gemini, so they're preparing to sextile, and as they're doing that, Mercury is reaching 20 degrees Scorpio on the same day. So Chiron and Jupiter over here they're in harmony. They're forming a really pleasant aspect with one another. Technically, it's Mercury kind of screwing this up, if you could say that, I guess. Mercury's stepping into this point right here. It's basically making this arrow. We've talked about yods a lot recently, mostly because Mercury and the Sun each made a yod with Neptune and Uranus. So this is completely different. We're channeling in some yang energy from Jupiter and Gemini, Chiron and Aries, but the focal point is Mercury in Scorpio. That's where the intensity is, because Mercury is the one making two quincunxes simultaneously as Jupiter and Chiron sextile one another. So I thought that was pretty wild. We don't usually talk about yods on this channel because they are pretty rare. So to have, I believe, 4 of them this month, plus pretty soon, well, in a couple of weeks, once the sun reaches 20 degrees Scorpio, Sun will also step into this, basically the same yod. So what does that mean? So, I've mentioned in previous weeks, a yod is a very dysfunctional situation. It's bittersweet. It's not all bad. There is a pleasant side to these situations that come up during yods. But at the same time, there's something problematic, there's something dysfunctional, and there's not a clear answer. It's an awkward energy. I actually love yods because of their dysfunctional and complicated nature. But at the same time, going through them, it's called the finger of God because it looks like a finger. They say God's giving you the finger because it's basically this problem that has no solution. How do you reconcile these very different energies? How do you combine Mercury and Scorpio with Jupiter and Gemini, with Chiron and Aries? They're saying completely different things. Combining Jupiter with Chiron in this instance would be one thing. Those are more or less agreeable, but Mercury's on a completely different page in Scorpio. So basically, you just gotta ride this out. And honestly, that sounds like a cop-out, but sometimes that's all I can say with these transits. If anything, that's all it really does. It teaches you just to go with the flow. Sometimes life is just weird. Sometimes it's not ideal. That's life. That's nature. So it kind of just is what it is. Quincunx is, I think, with any other aspect, there can be a solution. There can be a compromise. you know, there can be some kind of middle ground. But with a quincunx, though, especially with two quincunxes, that aspect involves two signs that generally have nothing in common. Here, Mercury and Chiron at least are in Mars ruled signs, so you could draw some connection there. But what do Scorpio and Gemini have in common? Very little. These are both very investigative signs, but other than that, they have different modes, different elements. They're in different seasons. One's yin, one's yang. There's nothing to connect here. So that's basically the nature of it. So the way you'll experience this is it will be awkward. It'll be, it's a situation that almost will work out, but there's something just off. It's not going to work out. And that's okay. Maybe it's not meant to. Maybe we're meant to wait this out and things will get better, because astrology teaches us everything is temporary. By the way, Mercury is cruising right now. Mercury is the one that instigated this whole aspect, and Mercury is traveling more than 1 degree per day. So this will be very brief. It's really just affecting Sunday, October 27th. That's the weird day this week. Thursday was the most active, dramatic day, but Sunday is the weirdest day. So hopefully that all makes sense. But yeah, that's pretty much what I've got for this forecast. I hope you enjoyed that. Definitely stay tuned next week as we venture further into Scorpio season. We will actually get a new moon, and we'll get some other pretty interesting aspects as well. So thanks so much for watching, and have a great week.